We're continuing to finish chapter 5. This is episode 9 of All Things Wisdom. So I'm going to get there myself. We'll be starting off in verse 14. We are beginning this chapter, of course, starting off with the fact that it likes to repeat the same thing in these first 5 chapters, saying, hey, listen to wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing. This is the main theme, giving a nod to the fact that this wisdom, no matter what culture, what age, what era of life on earth, it's always the truth, always concrete, always something to stand on. And so last time, what it was giving us a lot on, and it wasn't holding back very much, was the strange woman, the promiscuous woman, okay? And that's not the only Bible time that even Proverbs talks about this, and it talks about it a lot because it is a prevalent temptation for both male and female. Now, we're going to read a little bit and get into the message. So let's go. Chapter 5, verse 14. It says this: I was almost in all evil in the midst of the congregation and assembly. It says, drink waters out of thine own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well. Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the streets. Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. So, what's this saying here? It's talking about a fountain here. But first of all, in the bottom right here, we get kind of a little bit of a context of what this is talking about with fountain, I believe. And that is, save yourselves for what? The wife of what? Your youth. Now, I'm not saying if you wait or something like that, maybe you're like me. I'm a late bloomer. I got married a little later in life. I didn't get married early like Carlos and Shania and Frank, and I didn't get married early. And I'm not, and the thing is though, I like early marriages. I think it's great. The Bible says, hey, that's a good thing. It's a good thing to have a wife of thy youth. Why? Because life is new, you're brand new, you're both young. It's great to see two people, young people, make a good godly commitment like that. And it says, don't waste, and I was talking last week and the time before that when I got back from Arizona, is don't waste those young years on experimenting with things. Oh, what's fornication about? Some things aren't worth the experimenting or the exploring. We just need to trust what the Bible says about these sins and trust it with all our heart. We don't have to go down that road. Oh, the Bible doesn't know what it's talking about. The pastor doesn't know what it's talking about. My parents don't know what they're talking about. No, they do. And you need to put your faith in that wisdom. And so, let's talk about your fountains, okay? When I read this, let's just read it again. From verse 15 to 18. It says, drink waters out of thine own cistern and running waters out of thine own well. Okay, so let's just stop there. When it says that, this to me, the way what it's saying to me is that this is your energy, your time, your drive, okay? As a young person, too. As a young person in your younger years. First, it says in verse 15 to drink the waters out of thine own cistern, the running waters out of thine own well, okay? While you're young, okay, we use that drive. Use that drive. I said we. I'm not that young anymore. I'm 37 years old, okay? I'm just knocking on 40's door. But that young energy, work hard, get skilled, and by George, do some great works for God while you're young. Don't just be like, well, I'm young, so I'm going to have fun all the time. Hey, people got it backwards. People want to slack off and not make any solid decisions and have any life goals when they're young. They do it when they're 30. Okay? That's backwards. You need to find out who you are as soon as possible and get to it. Get to the goal. Make a goal while you're young, because that's when you have the good fountain. That's when your fountain is overflowing with drive and energy and ambition. Okay? God wants you to use that for Him too. He wants you to use that for Him while you're young. Okay? There might be a time, kind of like Mr. Don Strain here. The guy's having trouble walking now. I'd be hard to take him 6, 7, 8 blocks soul winning. Okay? He'd be having a hard time. But you know what? When you're younger and your legs work just fine, you should be getting out there and giving some of that fountain, that well, that energy, that drive to God and to something of work for him. And you don't want to waste it getting into some weird, and of course, in the context here, we're talking about bad relationships with men and women. You don't want to waste your time and your vitality as a young person giving it to some weird, non-committed relationship. Boy, girl, wise, okay? But even don't waste it on bad friends. Don't waste it on bad ambitions oh, I'll just decide what I want to do, when I'm 30. That's when I'll decide what I want to do. That's what I did, and I'm starting late, and yet now I'm getting into my career, and I'm finally knowing what I'm doing. I'm journeyman now, and so it's better now. But man, starting out in a new career, in a new trade, when you're 30, okay, your brain don't hold information like it used to, even at 30, okay? I think prime for a man averagely is 25, 27. That's when your brain is fully functioning, full power for 2 months. And then it's downhill from there. It's downhill, okay? The memory cells just start just incinerating, okay? So you got to use it while you got it, is what I'm trying to say. And then verse 16. Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad and rivers of waters in the streets. Okay, well, what's that saying? Use that time and energy not just for yourself. What's the adage? It's not what you know, it's who you know. Make good connections while you're young. Impress people while you're young with your energy and your drive and your motivation and good decision making, and that you're willing to learn, okay? People that can teach want to teach people like that. It's hard, man, when I get a new guy and they just don't want to learn anything, and worse, they are a know-it-all, okay, and they don't think that they're wrong ever, even though they've never done anything on a job site ever in their life. But they want to tell you how to do it, okay? That's harsh. That's harsh to live with. I mean, to teach on. So if you show yourself teachable, someone will come along and will want to give those pearls of wisdom to you, because you're not swine. You're not a dog. They're not giving their pearls unto swine. They're giving to someone that's going to cherish it and appreciate it. So it's not about what you know, it's who you know, because that person that you learn from, if they've got good skills, pass that down to you, man. That's treasure. That's wisdom right there. To find some good teacher that's going to teach you right, that's a blessing. Big blessing. And to take that energy, it says, disperse let thy fountains be dispersed abroad in the rivers of waters in the streets. Help people. Learn how to be a help while you're young. Don't try and learn that skill when you're older, okay? When your heart is maybe a little bit more hardened from the world, do it while you have just this overflowing well of energy to give a lot of your time to other people. And what am I talking about? Of course, if you're a Christian in the ministry, okay? Go soul winning as much as you can, because you're not tied down by much, okay? And especially if you just get married, you maybe have no kids or one or two. Well, maybe you have time then to get out and do some good works for God while you have not so tied down and not so constrained by things, I get out once a week. And that's about all I can do, okay? And Kyle and I, we make it a habit all the time to get out soul winning every week. But man, I'm busy. So, it's just like Paul. Paul says, I wish all men to be like me. Why? Because he gives all of his energy to the Lord. He's not married. He doesn't have any kids to worry about. So he can give all his energy to the Lord. Now, of course, we have to procreate. We can't all be like Paul, right? Okay? We have to have kids, or else the ministry would last, 80 years and then be done, because there's nobody left. Okay? So Paul's just saying, hey, if you have time as a young person, man, and you're not married, man, give your time to God, okay? Give your time to God. It's not wasted. Let's read on. So we're about to get in something a little offensive, so buckle up. Verse 19. Oh, verse 18. It says, let thy fountain be blessed and rejoice with the wife of thy youth, okay? Give your energy to your wife of your youth, all right? Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. Oh my goodness, the Bible's full of pornography. No, this is good advice from the Lord. You ever read Song of Solomon? Okay, it's like a Christian, like romance novel. Okay, romance short story. All right, but like, how is this in the Bible? This is weird. It's not weird. It's just the fact that our culture has literally sexualized everything. Everything. And America's almost become a prude for it, even though it's the most porn hungry country in the world. Okay? There's more sex trafficking in the world here in America than any place per capita when it comes to population, especially in big cities like Minneapolis, New York, LA, Boston's big, and those eastern places where the big ports are. Okay. It's so funny how we can be such prudes, and then we got this porn problem. Okay, it's kind of backwards. It's kind of almost hypocritical if you think about it. But what's the Lord saying here? The Bible, okay, God decided to use these words. He decided to use this imagery. Okay? Not the translators are like, oh, let's put some smut in there. Okay? No. This is exactly what God wanted to say. He wanted to say it exactly how he said in Song of Solomon, to enjoy your wife. Be ravished with your wife. Why? Because that's going to be a good, healthy relationship. That's why you're married in the first place, because the bed undefiled. You can actually have that type of passion with another of the opposite sex in a good, godly way. And God says, yeah, be ravished. Be passionate. It's good. Why? Because that love changes, man. It does. It's not like it's bad, but it changes. It's not brand new anymore. You drive a Lambo for a year, maybe a year and a half, and it's just another car that gets me to work. Okay? Might get me really fast, but it's still just another vehicle. And there's something else I want to talk about too, about passages like this. We don't want to be so holy, okay, so hyper spiritual that we can't even read certain parts of the Bible. Okay? Did you know that the word pisseth is in the Bible 7 times? Okay? It's another word for urination, okay? And it talks about a man doing it on a wall, and people are like, oh my goodness, the Bible is so horrendous. Yeah, and you go home and watch Walking Dead and Game of Thrones and all your cop and murder shows, all swearing and cussing and imagery, and you come here and you're like, oh, I can't take it. What a hypocrite. The Bible is perfect. It's pure. It has just enough information to give you just enough what you need to know, okay? It's not pornographic. It's not inappropriate. Okay, and I'm not saying you just say breasts or pisses everywhere you go. That's not right. Okay, because that's kind of like obnoxious, and so it's not modest. But God decided to use these words. So don't be so holy that you can't hear what the Bible has to say about certain subjects. Okay? Enjoy your wife while you're young. That's all it's saying. Be ravished with each other. Use that vitality when you're young. Love changes, man. Bodies change. Okay? They get older. Looks fade. We know this. The smooths get rough. The wrinkles appear. They don't call it chubby hubby. Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Because the person eating it's a chiseled Viking. He's chubby. Okay? He's accumulated mass. All right? Because of the chubby hubby ice cream. Right? I used to eat like 3-4 pints a day. All right? But I biked 8 miles a day. So it was okay. It was the outgo was more than the income. I was doing good. Now it's backwards. Okay? And so I really have to pay attention to what I eat now. But I don't. But anyways, the body's changed. So while you're young, enjoy the wife of thy youth, enjoy the husband of your youth, and be passionate, be ravished, okay? Because that love's going to change. And another thing, God gave, and I understand when women are just, nervous and they want to go somewhere else to do this, like my wife, because there's a bunch of creeps everywhere that can't keep their eyes off people. But breastfeeding a baby is the natural God-given way that God gave women to feed children. And you go ahead and go do that in the bathroom. Well, you go eat your sandwich on a toilet. Okay? It's completely natural. All right? And some people are like, well, I'm tempted by that. Well, that's your fault. That's your fault. Why? You can't keep your eyes off somebody doing something completely natural? And that's way out subject. That's way out subject, but I just wanted to mention that because there's times when people just get so offended by that, and I'm like, what else aren't you offended by though? The things you watch on television, the music you listen to, but you're offended by something natural like that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Anyways, I've mentioned this once or twice. Like I said, I love young people tying the knot. Like last time, my wife and I kind of fantasized about, man, if we would have just been younger and we would have been in church and doing things right and not just being graduates, 18-year-old, just doing what worldly people do. It would have been great to meet younger and get married younger because we would have had probably a bunch more kids. But we would have had that young vitality. My wife's, she's not here today. And, she's 34 years old. Sorry, honey, I said that out loud. Sorry, she's not 24. But neither am I. And, pregnancies get hard when you're a little older. Okay? Geriatric pregnancy. Sarah was 99. I don't care. Okay, no such thing. Maybe. She only, Sarah didn't have 12 kids, But, it's good that see young people do that while they're young, while their bodies are healthy and everything. It's good. It's a good thing. Oh, they're so tied down. Their whole lives were ahead of them. They still are. Their lives are still ahead of them, just in a different way. Just not a way that's no accountability. Not a way that's like, oh, I can just go and practice some experimenting with sin now. No. What's the way? The wife shall be saved in childbearing. Because childbearing is going to save you from getting distracted with all sorts of things that would take you away from doing a wifely duty. And a husband too, once you have kids, when I started having kids, I was like, I gotta make money. I gotta get busy. I can't just be messing around in a factory. I gotta learn some skills. Okay? Gotta get in church. Gotta find a good church. I gotta get baptized. This is 30. I'm 30 years old. Okay? I gotta get baptized. My wife's gotta get baptized. I just got her saved right before we got married. Right? All right, so this is the kind of life I'm living. And you can see that when you're young though, it's better because you have more time. You have more time is what I'm trying to say. And the chapter explains a little bit more in this. Don't give your best years to some floozy young kids that aren't married. Man or woman. Find someone that'll commit for life, loves God. That's going to be a good life. Verse 20. I spent a little bit too much time on that. It says, and why wilt thou, my son? So he's asking a question, or more of a rhetorical question. And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman and embrace the bosom of a stranger? For the ways of men are before the eyes of the Lord, and he pondereth all his goings. His own iniquity shall take the wicked himself, and he shall be holden with the cords of his sins. He shall die without instruction. In the greatness of his folly he shall go astray. So not only is it foolish, there's two ways that I want to interpret this for us. First one, I think is actually more obvious. Maybe, I don't know, it just depends on how you think. Not only is it foolish for you to do this embracing a strange woman thing, even for just a physical standpoint, because let's say fornication is a sin against your own body, right? It can hurt your own body. But spiritually, the Lord watches. And, there's lots of things that can happen to you from being promiscuous and being sitting and strange women being, floozy like that. But God is also going to come down on you too. A lot of the times with addicts, the punishment just comes with the sin. It's not like God has to trap the person. There's the hangover, there's the addiction part of it, there's the loss of money, there's loss of relationships. It just destroys your life all by itself. Okay, it's not like God has to rain up fire and brimstone on you. It's just your life's just going to decay because of the alcoholism, because of the addiction. And fornication has those things too, with STDs and pregnancy out of wedlock and all those things. But then what if God comes down to you and gives you something very, very special kind of punishment? Okay, because maybe you're just not getting the drift. Okay? And your iniquities won't just hurt you either. Okay? They won't just hurt you either. They will take others down with you as well. Your iniquities don't just hurt yourself. Because let's face it, if sin just hurt the person that was holding with the cords of it, if it was just them getting hurt, it'd be may be easier to turn a blind eye, but that's not the case. There's a ripple effect always. And people are always getting hurt that love you and, emotionally most of the time, but even physically, getting hurt because of what you're doing. And it angers the Lord to act in such a way, especially when you're supposed to know better, too, Christian. It says, in the greatness of your folly, will you go astray? Now, that's one way to look at the verses. A warning to Christians. That's a one way to look at these last verses. But another perspective. The verse is asking, why wilt thou? Why wilt thou embrace the bosom of a stranger? Because God sees the doings of man. Now, little English lesson, don't fall asleep. When we're talking about, who knows what a pronoun is? Probably all know that now, right? We've all gotten like master classes on that because of our society. But they, them, he, she, those are pronouns. But wait a second. What's the subject matter of the pronoun? When someone says she did this, well, who's she? He said this, well, who's he? The subject matter of that pronoun is called an antecedent, okay? So, when you're reading the Bible and it's saying he, she, they, look for subject matter. Why wilt thou embrace the bosom of a stranger? The stranger here is subject matter. And it says, let's see here. 21. For the ways of a man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he pondereth all his goings. That his goings, that's talking about that stranger. His goings. So he's saying, why wilt thou embrace the bosom of a stranger? Because God sees the doings of men, and they are holden by iniquity and sin. They go astray. They die without instruction. So why would you want to embrace someone that's going down that path? Is another way of looking at this. They eat each other up out there. Okay? It's a self-consuming sickness out there. They war against each other. They kill each other. Okay? Their iniquities not only destroy themselves, but others. And it's not for you. It's not for you to get tied up in it. Bible says, he that is unjust, let him be unjust still. Okay? He that is filthy, let him be filthy still. He that is righteous, let him be righteous still. He that is holy, let him be holy still. What that's saying, if you know righteousness, don't forsake it for filthiness. Stay righteous. And those that want to be filthy, even though they hear the truth, well, they can just remain that way, is what the Bible is saying. Because they consume each other. The wicked consume the wicked. Don't let it consume you. And I'm not saying to rejoice over that fact either. It's a sad fact, but it's a fact, yeah. So, chapter 6. That's chapter 5. Let's go into chapter 6 then. This goes into a whole different subject matter. It's a great chapter, lots of advice, just like the other ones we've been reading. Let's read 1 through 5 quick. Get some lessons in here from chapter 6. We'll take a break a little bit from the strange woman, but it comes back to it pretty quick. It says in verse 1, my son, if thou be surety for thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, thou art snared with the words of thy mouth, thou art taken with the words of thy mouth. Do this now, my son, and deliver thyself when thou art come into the hand of thy friend. Go, humble thyself, and make sure thy friend. Give not sleep to thine eyes, nor slumber to thine eyelids. Deliver thyself as a roe from the hand of the hunter, and as a bird from the hand of the fowler. Now, this is just saying in the last parts of that, count your losses and just, hey, I made a bad mistake is basically what it's saying, and now I got to make it right. But what is surety? A couple different concepts that we're seeing in this last in this chapter, but surety. What is surety? Now, if you've been in any kind of financial job, financial world, maybe you worked at a bank, an accountant, you might know that this is an older word for cosign, surety. Being surety for your friend is cosigning for a friend or a stranger, okay? And the Bible is giving us advice to not cosign or be surety for a friend or a stranger. Now, these days, it's kind of common practice to do this with people that, may not know any better. They just, help a friend out or something like that. Maybe their heart's in the right place, but the Bible is giving advice not to do this. And when it comes to like close family, my dad, when I got my first car when I lived with him in Baraboo, he co-signed for me, because I didn't have any credit and stuff. But I'm his son. I live with him. It's not like I'm like not there. He can keep an eye on me, right? Close family members you can keep a good eye on, and that's different. I believe the parent or a sibling, a child, something like that. Close family member. But usually people that are older and have a few decades under their belts are wary of this practice, even with family members. Because with close family members, yes, you can keep a good eye on the situation, but if it's, an unstable person, you don't want to do that. But friends and strangers, who knows what they're up to? And you don't want to put your neck out in such a way financially like that. It's giving advice not to do that. Now, is it a sin if you did that? I don't think so. I think this is giving some physical advice for us here. That if you like trusted a guy really, really well, like maybe I trust Kyle and he's, he's naked and destitute without food or whatever, and I help him out and he's like, man, I need you to co-sign for me so I can have a car so I can get to work. Maybe I would do that. And he'd destroy my credit. No, it'd be fine. Maybe I would. But in general, it's not a good practice. They could get in trouble. Kyle could go to jail. All right? Could. He's crazy. Just for some silly reason, I don't know. You're just unable to hold up their end of the bargain. It says in verse 3-4 there, again, do this now, my son, and deliver thyself. Okay? So what it's saying is, you know what? You've made a stupid mistake. Bite the bullet. Count your losses. Do whatever you got to do to get out of this bind. Do whatever you can to get out of it. Because really the best advice is to avoid it. It's to avoid it. Because people can be like secret crooks. You never know. And just a lesson there. There's more and more about this topic in Proverbs. But even Christian brothers and sisters too. Oh, but that's my Christian brother and sister. There's no command that you just have to co-sign if they ask you to co-sign with it. There's no command like that. Now, like I said, about being destitute and naked of food, they're just like, they're in dire need. Of course, help that person, okay? Where's your faith? But when it's just like, hey, I just, need this brand new tool or whatever it is they have to co-sign for, and they just like, they don't really need it. They're not even a dire strait, okay? It's not a good idea, especially if the deal falls through, because then now you have strife and contention with your brother and sister in Christ, and that's not good. You should have just avoid it. Avoid that drama. Avoid it altogether. Christians aren't sinless, okay? We're not perfect, okay? Even though sometimes we like to think we are not. Even though we're probably the best society has to offer because we follow God, we're still not perfect, okay? Verse 6. It says, go to the ant, thou sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provideth her meat in the summer and gathereth her food in the harvest. How long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep? Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that traveleth, and thy want as an armed man. So, right after warning about not being surety for a stranger or a friend, warning against that, it talks about getting to work. Don't be lazy. If you want to buy a car or whatever, you need to work for it. That's the best way to do it. You working for it, you earning it, you're going to appreciate it more. Every parent's probably told you that. Put that weight of responsibility on your own shoulders instead of dragging somebody into it and putting them at risk, okay? Now, here's something to remember. If you get someone to co-sign with you, that's a financial oath. And you better keep that oath. And just because it's with the bank and stuff, God's watching your heart. You better pay that, okay? Get out of it somehow. Someone else's reputation is on the line, okay? But God speaks on the ant, okay? Funny thing about ants, it calls it a her here, and you've probably heard this before, but all ants, exclusively in all colonies, are what? Female. They all are. Except for the men, and what are they? Drones. They're the drones, okay? They're the dumb ants, right? But all the women, the lady ants, okay? The girl ants, okay? The female ones. Right? I've said all the things about how you can say a girl. But they are the ones doing all the work. It's funny how it says her. It doesn't say him, because the Bible likes to say that all the time. It'll be talking about him and her, but it'll say him because it's a male-oriented book. But here it specifically says her, and they're all lady ants. Okay, so it's funny how God kind of knew that, huh? And he's, once again, the Bible's way ahead of its time. You could say that's coincidence, but I don't think so. Nothing's coincidence. But anyways, God speaks about the ant, how they get work done with what? No guide. No guide, no command, no supervision. They work because it's a must. It's a duty. But you see, especially nowadays, lazy people, work is oppressive. They look over in Norway, oh, they have like a 30-hour work week. Good for them. Okay, I'm at home for 3 days, and I'm losing it. Okay, why? It's because I have a lot of kids, possibly, possibly, but just because I gotta stay busy. My wife will tell you too. If I'm just sitting, I can sit for like a few hours, but I gotta get up and start doing stuff. I get itchy, and I'm just like, I'm wasting my life. Okay, I'm withering away. I have to produce. I have to produce something. And you've heard the old saying, I don't want to live to work. I want to work to live. You gotta work to live. It's just a way. It's a fantasy. It's an illusion to try and think that maybe if you're a billionaire or something, okay, but they got pressure too. They got all that money wrapped up in stocks and bonds and the economy, and they're stressing too about it. Okay, it's not just like, oh, there's someone out there that's just not working and they're living a dream life. No, that's called a bum. Okay, that's called a bum. There is no communist utopia that works, ever. People just die, okay? And they starve. And really, what they're saying is they just want a cream job, no pressure, big paycheck, okay? But little to no work involved, all right? And to the Christian, here's the thing, God has made you to work. We've said it before, Pastor said it too, just look at your hands. Your hands were specifically designed to make stuff and work, to grab tools, to make things, to produce things. And, life, sorry to say, sluggard, it isn't about having fun all the time. Oh, I can't wait to retire. I'm going to attack retirees right now. Get ready. Not just a little bit. This is my personal opinion, okay? I'm not a fan of that I can't wait to retire mentality. I'm not. Can you really depend on 401k these days? When it's just like, something happens and like you lose $50,000, your hard-earned money just gone. Now, if you're like putting it in gold or whatever. But it's not my mentality. It's always been what I teach. It's always been what I say. I will always work if I'm able-bodied. If my legs get blown off or I fall off a 40-foot ladder, okay, whatever. Yeah, I pray God takes care of me and my family. But let me be honest, I have no retirement plan. I really don't. Kyle gives me so much crud about this all the time. Okay, you're like, man, you got to get a retirement plan. You got a retirement plan. He's so greedy. Okay, all about money over there. But no, I just don't. People say like, oh, that's not wise. Well, does the ant have a retirement plan? I plan on working till I die, God willing. I want to preach until I die, God willing. And I don't want to fizzle out. I want to go out with a bang, okay? Now, if you get old and find yourself unable to work, yeah, I get it. I get that. I pray people take care of you. I pray that God takes care of you. But if you can still walk around and still think decent, you should get to work. A lot of those bums out there in these small towns, okay, are incentivized to do so, okay? They are, with all the help they can get. No, you need to stop helping them so they get to work. And they pretend to be crazy. I've talked to a couple of these guys, and you surprise them, and they'll just talk common to you. And they play this little part out in the streets so people feel bad for them. It's a show. When I lived in Vegas, there are professional panhandlers, literally making thousands of dollars a week panhandling. They don't need it. They're just bums. Okay? And if you're an able-bodied person, you got to get to work. And most people out there on the streets are there because of why? Addiction. They're addicted to drugs and alcohol. And they're doing crazy stuff to obtain those substances. And they need to, meet hunger, meet starvation, meet thirst. But that's my mentality, Can't think of not having a job. Not have a job. I mean, if I ever do like find myself not able to work, I gotta have something to keep me busy. Anyways. But worse than retiring is just being lazy. And young people, if you want to own a car, perhaps, or have a loan or even a house, I have a mortgage, and stuff like that, you should work for it. You should earn it. Okay. Now, when I got a house, my mom helped me with closing costs, but that's it. It was a gift. I didn't ask for it. She just gave that to me. And that's great. That's great to get them up and going. But you know what? My furniture, dilapidated. My clothes, hand-me-downs. Everything I had that's really, really nice is typically a gift. Okay? My cars, used, hail damage, old tires, old everything, rust bucket. Okay? Whatever. My house is 100. It's old. It comes from the beginning of the town when it was first planted and founded. Okay, they didn't have cars back then. Yeah, I have an old picture of it that I keep right by my front door, and there's a horse stable in the back because that's what they were driving back then. 1 horsepower. All right. Praise God. Praise God I got that home when I could. He helped me find those things. And it's so satisfying as a Christian to be married and doing your thing, and you're just trusting God. And you're just trusting God, and it's like, it's exciting in a scary way, a really scary way sometimes. Okay? And it's so satisfying when he just provides for you. Like all of a sudden, he just provides, debt's forgiven. Whoa! That's why that extra $600 we don't have to pay anymore this month. Hooray! We can live. We're gonna survive. Okay? People are like, that's no way to live. No, it is though. It is a way to live to depend on God like that. Do I like it? Sometimes I don't, sometimes I do. But I do like it when I'm praying and God comes through for us, man. That's awesome because it just increases my faith. That's all I have for you today. We didn't finish up like our habit is for Proverbs, but we'll continue talking about the froward man and the froward mouth, and it talks more about the strange woman's sluggardness and not being surety and stuff like that. But yeah, good advice. Good advice, Proverbs has lots to say. Anyways, let's bow our head and have a word of prayer.